Welcome into the Scene Project Sports Network. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today, former PGA pro, Jason Prendergast. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Bubba. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do you maintain the PGA pro title long after you're done working for them, or does it become a bit of just a moniker?
No, actually, well, there's two kinds of golf pros that people would know. The ones they see on TV, they're the professional golfers. And then the ones like me and 35,000 of us out there who are golf professionals. So, no, I'm a golf pro, still a golf pro. I'm no longer working behind the counter at a club at the moment, but no, that label and the PGA of America will be behind me for the rest of my life. So, no, we'll stay there.
That's good. Yeah, they can't take that away from you. And you had a long, illustrious career in working with the PGA. What a wonderful organization and everything that they do. I know you wrote a book recently. Congratulations on that. We're going to talk a little bit about that later as well. Recently retired from behind the desk, but still very involved in the golf world. Before we get into everything that you're doing now in this, we'll call it an interesting period of your life, transitioning now into, away from a world that you had known for several decades. I'd love to know a little bit of that backstory, kind of how you got into golf and how you ended up, working as a PGA golf pro for all those years.
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting story. Everyone's got one that begins in golf, and mine, I was 19 years old before I ever picked up a club, and my girlfriend's father at the time used to tell me about playing. And anyway, he asked me if I wanted to caddy for him one time, which really meant riding in the cart beside him. And so I did that. And throughout the entire day, he was telling me to be quiet, don't walk through the bunker. And I was doing literally everything wrong. And I got in the truck with him on the way home, and I was like, man, that was so much fun. And so then he asked me if I wanted to play. And the next week we went and played, and I shot 66 the very first time I ever played for 9 holes, which, by the way, is like 30 over par. And I stopped counting at a 10, and we got in the truck afterwards, and I was like, man, that was amazing. When can we do that again? Which, was pretty crazy. I failed like 60 times that day and had 6 good shots maybe. So
it only takes one, though, right?
Yeah.
If you can hit one good shot around, that feeling of elation is enough to bring you back. And I think every person who's ever, been on the golf course and has that experience understands exactly what we're talking about. There's very few of us on the planet that achieve even being a good golfer, right? And I think now it depends who you ask out there, what it means to be good. But, I feel like if you can kind of hold your own, breaking 90, right, is a big mark for a lot of early golfers. Breaking 80, I would say that you're a fairly consistent golfer. There's guys that do it for a living that go out and shoot 85s on the tour, right? So there's, even the best. Most notably, I was at a PGA Tour, a Champions event in Sioux Falls last year. A big shout out to the Sanford International for having us. But John Daly was out there, and John shot like 14 over on one hole. Just kept going into the pond, right?
Yeah.
But if you're consistently breaking 80, I would say that you're a good golfer. There's a very small percentage of people who do this regularly that ever get to that level.
Yeah, I think there's a big misperception around the game of golf and your definition of good, as you mentioned earlier. It's all in our mind and our perception of good, right? It took me 3 years to break 100. And I'm not so sure how many of the rules of golf I was actually following at that time. But that was the most important round of golf that I had ever played in my life. I literally went out and partied and, consumed a little too much probably that night. It was such a big thing for me. Right. Those milestones, whether they're in life or in golf or whatever, wherever they happen to fall, those big moments kind of help shape who you become and really who you think you are in the moment, right? We have this identity perception of who we tell ourselves we are, who we actually are, right? Who kind of what people see, and then the person that we're trying to become. And there's this huge gap between where we are right? Where we tell ourselves we are or who we are and where we're trying to go. And I think we live in that gap, chasing that future self. And breaking 100 that day was unbelievable. And then I went on to break. The year I broke 100, I broke 90 and 80 all in the same time. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I'm actually pretty good. And I wasn't as good as what I thought. But I was a lot better than wasn't as good as I thought, but I was a lot better than I realized, if that makes any sense. So, the game of golf will test you in many, many ways. But you don't have to even break 100 to have one of the best times of your life for 4 hours. That's the beauty of it. You're with 4 people, you're playing golf, right? You're communicating about life and your family and your challenges and your fears. And there's not a game out there that I know of that allows for that environment to happen in the sense that it does. So I'm just truly blessed that I was able to play well enough for the PGA of America to let me wear the shield and share my love and passion for the game of golf with, literally thousands and thousands of people in my life. It's kind of like what you're doing on the show here. You're touching thousands and thousands of lives, and that's really important.
Do you feel like those early rounds? I mean, I highly doubt that after day 2 out on the course, actually swinging clubs, that you were like, I'm going to be a PGA golf pro for 3 decades and to pursue a career in this. But do you feel like that early, elation really informed you and the rest of your career in bringing that joy to others and having a real passion for that?
I think, again, I came into golf at 19, so I'd had a lot of my entire life I had spent without golf. At 19, my entire life I had spent without the game. But my girlfriend's father, George Nichols, and he has since passed. He owned a family business in our town, and it was a gas station. And what happens at a gas station back in the 80s is that you wash a windshield, you check the oil, and you talk to the person through the windshield. It's so sad that day has gone by today, and that no longer happens. That he taught me more about business and relationships than any book or any class or any other mentor ever has. So ironically, pumping gas taught me how to have those relationships. And really, he was preparing me to be a golf professional, and neither one of us knew it at the time. But if I go back and I try to find the one thing that I learned in my life that I have applied literally everywhere, he taught me about how to care about people. I got a pretty cool story. Maybe we'll share it a little bit later. But he taught me about that, relationships and how to care about people. And I mean, that's ultimately what it's about. But I had no idea I was going to do this. Are you kidding me? I had no idea. And in my book, I talk about the moment that I decide this is the journey I'm going to take. And my life had literally, my perfectly blue collar world, and grew up on a dairy farm, right? So my never clean hands and perfectly blue collar world literally blew up overnight. I went to bed and it was perfect. And I woke up the next morning, and the company that I had been running a division for sold. And along with it went my division as well. So everything I knew in an instant was over. And I had wrapped my identity, my internal identity and my external identity, into this company and into what people saw. And that got ripped away from me. And man, that's powerful stuff when that happens to you. And I have learned since, looking back, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I have learned that it's dangerous to wrap your identity into something you don't own, right? How someone sees you, a title can be taken away from you tomorrow, a job can be ripped away from you tomorrow. But what they can't take away from you is how you view yourself in the world as the person that you are, right? Are you one that shies away from a moment, Or are you one that recognizes this is a moment that's a little beyond where I'm accustomed? Okay, there's a little fear there, the unknown, and a little fear of I don't know if I really belong or not. But the internal identity that no one can take from you is, okay, I realize this fear and I hear it, but I'm going to go stand in that room. I'm the person that stands in that room. And looking back again, that's what I learned from that moment when everything was taken from me. And you can't take the stuff that's inside, right? How you view yourself. The world's going to see you however they want, and they don't see you the way you do because they're looking at it through a billion. How many people are on the planet? Like billions, right? There's a billions of lenses of people that are looking at you, and they see you however they're going to interpret you. And you can't see that version because you don't look through their eyes. So the only one you can see is your own. And I think if you chase those things, becoming the person that you want to be in life, more so than the title, no one can take it from you ever. And it's a powerful thing. And I know it kind of gets on this. I've been told before, Jason, you're a little cerebral for me. And I'm like, that's a wonderful place to be. I mean, let's dive in and see what these moments are telling us. You know, that moment when my world was wrapped up tight and then exploded. I mean, I discovered who I was, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. All I was doing in that moment when I chose to chase this dream of being a golf professional, and it was in 1997, the only thing I was worried about in that moment was that moment. I couldn't see beyond that moment. I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do tomorrow? Where's my life going to go? And it takes time. Reflection requires time to pass. Seconds sometimes, minutes, hours, years, decades, whatever. But I'm very grateful for the lessons that I learned early in my life, which I talk a lot about in my book. Those early learning moments really, truly allowed me that day to chase this crazy dream of going to be a golf pro. I mean, seriously, I was milking cows, pumping gas, and fixing heating systems that were frozen at 20 below zero in Vermont under a trailer, thawing out pipes. And the very next day, I'm on a journey to go become a golf pro. Seriously, how does that even happen? It was all the things that had happened prior to that moment in my life that prepared me to make that decision. And yet I didn't know that that's what happened. I just was like, I got to find something to do. This is scaring the daylights out of me, this moment. So anyway, sorry for the winded, passionate answer there, but I feel like we spend so much of our life chasing success and identifying what success looks like through the lens of external vision upon ourselves. I do it too. No, look, I mean, nobody doesn't do this, right? The awards, the success, the titles, the big time job, the corner office, whatever. Those are all signs and signals of success and viewed through some lens. But if you only chase that, then when you get it, what happens? Maybe you haven't even prepared yourself to be the person that is capable of sitting in that corner office because you haven't done enough deep work on yourself to realize that that person that's going to be sitting there is a different version of yourself now, because if it was the same, your today self would already be in the corner office. I mean, that's why you're chasing this crazy dream. And it's not just the corner office, it's the person that you want to become in order to sit in there. And I think that's where we need to spend a lot more of our time thinking about what does that person look like? How do they act? How do they perform? What's their relationship with fear? Because you don't ever get away from fear. You got it for the rest of your life. It's in the passenger seat forever. So who sits in the passenger seat when you go on a trip? 4 guys are going on a trip. Here's a joke, right? 4 guys are going on a trip. The guy driving the car is the one that has the car. Who's the guy in the front seat? It's the guy driving's best friend. His best friend's not sitting in the back. The best friend, his right-hand man, they call it, is sitting in the passenger seat, and that's where fear sits for your entire life. So you've got to have a relationship with fear. And as soon as you start having one, then you can start to understand one and what it's telling you and how it sounds and how it shows up. And maybe you can start recognizing these moments when you start to hesitate a little bit. Well, that's the fear of the unknown telling you, whoa, don't go through there. Something might happen on the other side. And I don't know. So when you can start recognizing what it sounds like, you can like, dude, I'm going, man. We're going. We're right. So anyway, I think that we got to have a relationship with fear. I think that's what the most influential people, I don't even want to say success, because I think success and impact are really not the same things, but we'll call it successful, if you will. I think they have a relationship and an understanding of fear that a lot of people don't. So,
Well, and something that, it's a relationship with it. You're never going to not have fear of anything, and I can relate to this in my personal life. I've overcome a ton of fears in my life. I will never say that I'm fearless, but I've always been one that doesn't let it paralyze me. I have a very healthy relationship with it. Maybe it's all the roller coasters my mom took me on at Great America when I was, 10, 11 years old and barely tall enough to ride them. But it was always the fear, the opposite, right? The fear of what happens if I don't try and I don't do this, right, would always overcome the elation. And I think golf's a great game to teach us that, because who isn't afraid, especially when you're having one of those rounds of your life that this next shot isn't going to go into the trees and sink your whole day. And I know the Masters just happened a few weeks ago. The Rory McIlroy stepping up on the 18th tee, and that fear of what if I don't finish this out, right, to win that second one, or the year before when he's trying to get the monkey off his back, right? And you're never going to not have that, but it's your relationship with that feeling and having to be there and overcome it. And I don't know that there's a greater game other than golf, right, that can teach you to have that relationship with the fear and how to overcome it, because every shot has that fear behind it. And it doesn't really matter where you're playing or the time of day or the consequences of the round, be it zero or a Masters championship at the end of it. There's always that heightened, the heart rate goes up a little bit. The nerves are a little tense. And I think that golf can be such a great game. And it's probably why extremely, people with stressful jobs and high level CEOs, besides, I think the price of golf is coming down, and it's much more accessible now than it was traditionally.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's the reason that men and women of that caliber and built of that ilk would love the game so much, because you already had a relationship with the beast that can take you down at any moment. So I love it. And I love that, you've spent a lifetime introducing people to that fear on the golf course, and like, hey, it's sitting right beside you. Right. And it's okay. It's not being overcome by it. And the joy you're going to feel when you do overcome it and you sink that putt to make your first birdie. And then, maybe in the future, it's an even bigger shot, right? Or take that to your life. My wife just made a transition in her workplace. Same, working at the same school, but a new position that she was really nervous and fearful about what people would think in her current spot, and if she would get it, and if she's gonna make somebody mad if she doesn't get it and she's there. And it's like, look, you can either live with that fear and be stuck where you're at, where you're maybe not as happy, or you can take the chance, you can overcome that fear, do what you need to do, and not live with the fear of the unknown of what if you had not taken that chance. And to me, living with regret has always been a much scarier proposition than just going and doing the thing.
Yeah. I think I don't know that. Well, first off, I've never met Rory McIlroy. I've been blessed to have met a lot of them on the tour, but I promise you, he was dealing with fear in that moment. I promise you. You can't not have it. That moment on the 18th tee, right? I think, and I think if he was on the podcast with us right now, he'd say, "Oh man, yeah, I was afraid for a moment. I flashed moment, and then I gathered myself and I went through my routine and I got to my right." So I think that none of us are immune, and I think that's the thing I want to let everyone out there know. None of us are immune to it. The greatest in the world talk about battling it and talk about being nervous. And I think the misperception for younger people, and I know it was true for me. The perception for younger people is that at some point I'm not going to be afraid anymore, or at some point I'm going to belong in that room, or whatever it may be. Um, the reality is that it's with you all the time, and the relationship that we've been talking about with it, in my mind, when I say a relationship with fear, it's again, it's recognizing that it's there, it's hearing it in my head, and it's understanding that it's questioning. When I hear a fear, it's either questioning who I tell myself I am in the moment, or is it tied to who I want to become. And sometimes fear is telling you it's time to grow. You belong in the room. You're questioning whether you belong in the room. That's a sign that you grow and you actually believe you belong in the room, but you're wondering if the other people belong in the same room. It's less about, do you think you do? You already do. That's why you want to go in there. It's whether those people in that room believe that you're there. So it's a sign of growth, and the only way you're going to know is if you go. And I wish it was as easy as just go. But I think learning how this stuff happens to you is the way to work up the courage, or the guts, or whatever you want to call it, to move your feet. And so what happened? Big deal. What happens if you go in there and you make a fool of yourself? Big deal. I mean, it's a big deal in the moment, but it's not the Mount Everest that you think it is. And I think, I in my book, when my very first edition came, and this was the very first ever printed copy of it, and I held on to it for several days, and then I signed it, and I wrote a message. I signed it to 3 people. I signed it to my younger self, and I wrote my younger self a message, and I signed it on a separate page to my current self, and I wrote my current self a message, and then I signed it to my future self, and I wrote my future self a message. And ever since the day that I finally decided to do this, I knew I was going to do it. I just wasn't sure what I was going to say. And every day since then, I read all 3 pages, because, interestingly enough, my younger self is alive right now, today. He's the younger self of tomorrow, and of 10 years from now, and of 20 years from now. So talking to my younger self of, 26 years old, when my life blew apart, that person is a version of that younger self is alive right now. It's the same person in a way, in that it's the youngest version of my future self right now. So anyway, I think we all should do that. Talk to our younger selves, and forgive them for the mistakes that they made. Thank them for them, because they taught us very valuable lessons. Thank them for dealing with the pain of the mistakes that they made and the things that they regret, because none of us can avoid life without those. I've made some terrible decisions in my life, and I look back, I'm like, how is that even possible that you do that? And I don't even know that we have to define that answer. I don't know that it needs to be defined. I think it needs to be understood in the moment, and learned by, and then forgiven. I mean, if you can't forgive, then you can never move forward, truly. So, I forgive him, and I tell my future self to literally, don't you give up on me. Do not give up on me. I'm coming. I've been chasing you my entire life. Do not give up on me on the top of that mountain. I'm coming. And then I also say in my note to my future self in my book, I say, and don't you dare stand still and wait for me. Don't. I don't want to meet that version of you. I want you to keep going and keep growing. That's who I want you to do. That's your role. We are a team. We are in this thing together, climbing this mountain, and you need to go. And I'm coming right behind you. I don't know. It gives me a lot of belief, and it gives me a lot of hope to have a relationship with the person that is truly the most important person in my life, really. And it's going to sound arrogant or whatever, but I mean, the truly most important person in my life is me. And it's not because I matter more than my wife, who I love more than anyone on the planet, really. I mean, but if I can't love me, then I can't love her either. And I'm not going to do a good job with my daughter. I'm not going to do a good job with anyone in front of me. So, you know, tell my future self, get going, man. Come on, blaze the path. I'm coming right behind you. And tell my younger self every day, thanks for having a dream and thanks for having the guts to chase it. And I hope I'm making you proud, and you'd be proud of me today. So I don't know. Sounds kind of corny, I know, but that's what keeps me driving.
I think you touch on something there that a lot of us deal with, a lot of self-doubt and self-hate, extrapolate that out. And that how can you love someone else? How can you love your wife? And how can you love your children? And how can you love your neighbor if you are battling with yourself and you're not forgiving yourself for mistakes that you made? We've all made mistakes. I've made some absolutely atrocious mistakes myself. If you care to hear about them, I got 1,000 podcast episodes where you can find out more. And, talking to the younger version of myself and the older version of myself and building this archive of content, and me meeting so many people, live on camera, some of them for the first time. When the camera rolls, that's the first time I'm meeting them, or I'm at an award show, or I'm at a golf event, and having all of these conversations. In each case, I'm getting to know myself a little bit better. I'm putting down that imposter syndrome of that I don't belong here. And while a corner office in some high rise of building isn't necessarily my dream and my vision of success, I am working towards a future version of myself that I see. And a lot like you, I think, as someone who is passionate about helping other people to see themselves for the beautiful, amazing human being that they are, no matter what they've had to overcome. And in many ways, because of what they've had to overcome.
Yeah, it's, the self-doubt, you mentioned that. If you want to find out how much self-doubt you have, try to do this right here and write this thing. Because, I mean, wow, for me, that was the biggest. I never had more self-doubt. And it's really, as I reflect back on my whole writing journey, which was about a 8-year process, writing in my free time. I mean, I'm about to put my life to the world. I don't know if the world will read it, but somebody who doesn't know me is going to. And even people that do know me are going to. And you're going to put your life out there. One, you have to be vulnerable enough to do it. You can't just put all of your successes and great stories in there, because no one cares to read about that stuff. I mean, they want to see that you have failed and that you struggled, because that's what they're doing, is failing and struggling. And right. I mean, that's why you read a book, to find yourself in it. That's why you read a memoir anyway, to find your version of your life mirrored in someone else's, and that they got through it, and you can too. Right. So as I write the book, I get done, and every day I'm questioning, is my writing good enough? I never made more than a C in English my entire life. I'm the last person that should be writing a book, technically writing a book. Okay. And yet I learned how to do it all thanks to YouTube, and I don't know, over 1,000 hours of videos on how to write books and all this kind of stuff. Right. But my brother, who's one of my closest people in my life, reads my book, And I said, he was like, this is unbelievable. Of course, he's my brother, so of course he's going to say that. And I said, okay, here's what I want to know. How much of it did you not know? And he was like, I knew most of the stories, but I think 75% of the book I had no idea. He said, I'd heard the story about X or Y or Z, but I had no idea what you were carrying and going through in those moments. All we could see was you at Oakmont, one of the top 10 clubs in the world, and you're there for 2 years. And I mean, he said, I lived those experiences. He said, because that's what you allowed me to see. And he kept everything else inside. And I thought, wow, how dangerous is that? And then that conversation made me realize, for 2 decades, I never told anyone what my dream was. Originally, I wanted, when my identity blew up and I decided I wanted to be a golf pro. So I go to my club, my home pro club at Larry Kelly, and tell him, he's my pro at home. And I said, Larry, I want to be you. How do I be you? And a few minutes later, he spins a rotary phone, with a long cord on it, spins that thing around his desk, shoves it to me and says, call the PGA of America. So Larry, thank you for forcing me to do that. And so anyway, I want to become a golf pro. And then I get to PGM school at Mississippi State, one of the 4 schools in the country that offers this educational pathway to become a club pro. And at the time, there were only 4. And I sit in a room with like 150 kids that are 18 to 20, and I'm 26, and I'm like, I am so far behind all these guys. And yet they're probably looking at me going, look at grandpa over there. We're so far behind him, right? So who knows, And I realized in that moment, okay, being a golf pro is not going to cut it. I got to compete against 150 in this room alone. This isn't going to be enough. So I told my director, all right, I want to be one of the best in the country. How do I do that? And he kind of helps guide me on a path to do that. And that I do find my way to Oakmont and working for Bob Ford, who is regarded as, he's a legend in our game and regarded as probably the greatest of all time club pros. And I get an opportunity to be mentored by him for 2 years. And shortly after I meet him for the first time, I'm like, okay, this whole trying to become one of the best in the country, this dream of mine, it's no good anymore. Because now I'm seeing what greatness is, and that is actually what I want. And so the bridge that I had built from where I was to where I wanted to go no longer extended to the greatness edge, which was way over on the other side. And I'm like, man, I got to retool this whole thing. And greatness can sound a little, arrogant maybe, but greatness in my mind and what I saw in Bob Ford and what I'm actually trying to chase is impact on others and impact on the game of golf. That's what I saw in the greatness in Bob. Lots of success I saw too, but the true greatness of him is the impact he has. So that's what I'm trying to chase. And I didn't dare tell anybody. For 2 decades, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell Bob. And so because I protected it from those external conversations of, right, who do you think you are? Chasing greatness. Seriously? Come on, man. Seriously, Bob Ford. What are you doing? Right? So I protected it like you would a newborn baby. I shielded that thing, and I did a great job of protecting it, according to my brother, who didn't know about 75% of the stuff in the book. And he's my brother, right? So I did an amazing job of protecting it from harm. But in doing so, I protected it from growth, because Bob Ford would have absolutely helped me. And when I finally told him 2 decades later, I finally mustered up the courage to tell him this is what I was chasing. You know what he said? He paused. He was on the phone. He paused for a moment, and I could hear his smile. And he said, "Good for you, Jace. Good for you." I'm like, golly, I should have told him this 2 decades ago. Where would my life be? I get so worried about everyone's negativity and telling you that you can't make it. And I totally didn't even think about the people that would say, oh, that's awesome. Here, come over here. Let me help you. It's amazing. You know, you protect the things from harm, and in doing so, we protect them from growth. That was a revelation I had through writing the book too. I'm like, wow, I just can't believe I did that. So anyway, it's all in the book.
Yeah, well, and Dream Driven available on Amazon. You can listen to the audio version on Audible as well. I know that wasn't without its challenges. Just reading isn't always as easy as it seems, is it, Jason?
No, it's not. It's one of the hardest things I ever had to do. It seriously took me 20 hours in the studio, 20 hours, and the audiobook's like 9 hours. It took me 20 hours to read that thing. So
Well, yeah, as someone who spent a lot of time in a studio and performing live on stage, that it is not always easy to take what you may do every single day and you've done 1,000 times, to take it into a very sterile environment where it needs to be just right. It is not a simple process, but I'm glad you did it. I'm glad that it's you narrating your book. I know a lot of people will have others do that. I don't feel like it ever hits the same. So I love it. I can't wait to give it a listen and a read as well. I hope everyone else does as well. Jason, anything you want to add before I let you go?
yeah, maybe the most important thing for today that I want to add, and I want to thank you for the work that you're doing with our soldiers and our veterans. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. My uncle served. I know I shared a video with you about that. I did not serve in the military. I had someone tell me that it's okay. You're serving in your own way. We all serve in different ways, but my hat goes off to everyone that has served for our country. For those that are dealing with the challenges out there right now, I'm praying for their families to come home safe. And I just thank you every day for what you're doing, and the PGA of America and their Reach and Hope program, and helping our veterans, and supporting our families. As my aunt said, you know, the family goes to war. It's not just the soldier. And so for the families back home, I just thank you very much. I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
Well, we are very honored to serve those who have served, and with your few recommendations, we are able to reach out, and I know that we'll be doing a lot more with our veterans and inside of the game of golf as well, out on the course. It's going to be a wonderful experience for us, so I need to thank you for that as well.
Absolutely.
Jason Prendergast, recommend everybody goes and buys your book, Dream Driven, and gets to know you a little bit better. Really excited for you. A huge congratulations to
Thank
really
you.
finally bring that across the finish line. I know it's been a labor of love for what'd you say, 7-8 years now,
Yeah,
getting
7.
it to this point. So
That's
almost
right.
a decade of your life to have that chapter closed, and now you can start working on the next one. So
Thank you. Yeah, my wife said I couldn't start talking about book 2 until book 1 was finished, and so look out, honey, I'm getting ready to start talking about number 2, right? So all I can say is dreams are worth chasing, and dream big, and be dream driven. Go get it.
indeed. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for everything. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for being part of the scene.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for all you're doing.